Hey, this is Dr. Gary Sprouse, the Less Stressed Doc, and I'm here with my wife, Terry.
Hello.
Hey, and we're here to help you get to your happy place. We want you to find that happy place and, more importantly, stay there. So what we're doing is bringing guests from around the country to help you figure out where that happy place is, find ways to have less stress so that you can spend more time in your happy place. And so today we have the honor of having Dr. Mahone, who's an assistant professor down at Payne University, here to tell us how to have less stress. Welcome, how you doing today?
Very good, sir.
Drive on happiness highway.
So I was on your website and I saw these two lectures, and one on college students and their stress, and the other was on the workplace stress. So tell me about college student stress, because I think parents don't have any clue how stressed out you can be as a college student.
No, parents don't. And students are under tremendous pressure to perform academically. And what happens in college, they're in a new environment. It's like a culture shock coming from an urbanized area or a rural area. And as a result, stress hits them. Academic stress, studying, coming to class, getting up in the morning, being stressed out as a result of those things. They have to study. They have to prepare for classes. They have to do research papers. They have to have good time management skills to accomplish everything they want to accomplish academically. That's the difference.
So both of my kids went through college, and they kind of went through kind of straightforward, but your kids, they didn't just go straight through, right?
No, there was some hiccups along the way with my kids. For example, when my son was a sophomore, my husband at the time, his stepfather, unexpectedly passed away. So in the throes of midterm exams, we now have an unexpected funeral in there, and of course, his grades suffered as a result of that event. He ended up dropping out of that college and moving back home because he felt mom needed him. So he moved back home, went to the community college for a year, and then resumed at a different university. But yeah, there's also that stress. Another stress I had heard from other people is that for the first time in the student's life, they now have a roommate. Because you're in a dormitory, you have a roommate, which is most kids nowadays have their own room at home. So for the first 17, 18 years of their life, they have their own room, their own space, they do what they want, they spread out. Now they have to cohabitate with someone they may or may not have ever met before.
Yeah, well, and it's probably not just one. It could be 3 or 4.
Could be.
And I think you mentioned that in your lecture, and it's not always a friendly relationship. Sometimes you can have a roommate that's not so friendly.
Absolutely. You got to be with this person for a long period of time over the different semesters, unless they change roommates. And we don't change roommates. Once you get them, you're stuck with them.
So what I didn't get from your lecture is, what do you tell college students how they can deal with their stresses? And then the second thing is, not just the college students, but how do you get the parents to be more supportive for the kids and help them out?
Well, you can control stress by not letting stress control you. And that's what I lecture to my students when I see them doing office hours. I always tell them, I said, you need good time management skills. Don't overwhelm yourself. Take your time. Go to the library. Come to class for lectures. Do all these things, but be on, in management-wise, time management. Time management is very important for students in college. They have a full load. A lot of them have 5 classes. And that's a lot of classes. I teach 5 classes, as a matter of fact. And that's too much for me. And I can imagine how it is for a student. Because they have to cram, they have to study, they have to do research, they have to come to lecture halls. It's rough. Very stressful.
Well, so one of the things that I found was that a lot of college students, because of the stresses that you were talking about and the things that you were talking about, they start trying to cope with their stresses by drinking alcohol, because now they're allowed to and they can have access to it. And so what I see is a lot of students get in, here's the word I use, a stress reducer loop. So they're under stresses, so they drink alcohol, they do marijuana, but then that starts making them not be able to study and not do well on their schooling, which then makes their schoolwork worse. So then they drink even more, and so they end up in this stress reducer loop. And so one of the questions then is, well, how do you get out of that loop? How do you get rid of some of these stresses? So you said time management is perfect, because that's what I see. A lot of students just are like, not study, and then the night before they're cramming everything in. So separating that out and giving it over time allows the brain to kind of get the information in and process it so it's there that they can access to it. Is there something that parents can do to help your kids get that time management skill, or anything else they can do to help?
If the parents become actively involved with their students when the student's in college, and they talk to each other every day or every other day, and the parent is inquisitive as to what the child has done making their way through college, that's a distressor right there. I call that eustress, the good stress. From 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I was in Dr. Mahone's class. We talked about this, and this. And we're gonna have an exam in 3.5 weeks. I'm gonna go to study sections, the library, tutorial center. I'm gonna do all these things to prepare for this test.
When my kids went to college, they didn't want me around. They drew a circle around our home that was 3 hours, because they go, no school inside the circle. It has to be outside the circle, because we don't want you to showing up. So I'm not sure they would have appreciated me calling them 2 or 3 times a week. I don't know. My son was struggling, and so we got a tutor for him. That seemed to help, because then it was somebody that was familiar but was not his parent.
If they have a reciprocal relationship with someone outside the family, that makes it even better, because they have an outside person that can check on them, that they can talk things over with. I've had students come to me and ask me questions, personal questions.
So this is what I found. It was like a lot of parents going, hey, I'm paying for your tuition, your food is paid for, and all you got to do is study and go to school. So what's the big deal? And when I say to the parent, it's like, look, first off, it's a really big deal. Things that you just said, it's a whole new environment. All of a sudden they're living by themselves. As you said, now they got to deal with a roommate or 3. And there are all these new things. Plus they're getting graded, and the rest of their life depends on those grades. They don't know what it is that they really want to do. They might have an idea, but they have no experience to, hey, like, I think I might want to be a doctor, but I'm not sure, because I don't know what a doctor is or what it does. And so they're trying to make a decision on what job they're going to have for the rest of their life. And then, oh, by the way, they're going through all these hormonal changes. Oh, and then I got to pick a mate for the rest of my life too. Right? So when you put it in those terms, you're like, wow, those are some really big stresses to deal with. And so what I talk about is, don't squeeze everything in. What I have seen is, I've had some patients that had ADD, and they really struggle, because time management is like, that's one of the symptoms that gets them diagnosed with ADD. So I had a patient that had gone okay in high school, because he got spoon-fed and his parents kind of kept track of him. But when he went to college, it was a disaster. So he flunked out about 3 or 4 times, and he had decided that, hey, I'm just gonna have to work at McDonald's the rest of my life. And I got to meet him through his dad, and what we talked about are different ways to do time management, but we also added some medication. And he went from flunking 4 times to getting straight A's. And now he became a math tutor for other kids that are having issues. And it's like, so sometimes you have to identify what stress you can do something about, because that can make a whole difference in everything else in the person's life.
Well, yes, that's a good example. I'm glad you brought that up. You must be reading my mind. I suffer from PTSD, depression, paranoia, and stress, from all of it. And when I first came out of the Marine Corps from Vietnam in 1970, I was taking classes at Union College in Chicago. The professors, they weren't clinicians. I wasn't going to a psychiatrist. Only thing that happened, I can concentrate and pass exams. So I went 1.5 years without completing the course. And the professor said, You'll be better off going to a vocational training, truck driver, plumber. You should try that. I said, I don't want to try that. I want to do academics. So I transferred colleges from the college downtown to another college on the west side of Chicago. The professors there took time out with me. We attacked all the weaknesses that I had in studying.
So you're bringing up a really good point, and I think both of us did this. So the size of the college really makes a big difference. So her son was at Virginia Tech and he was struggling, and we moved into a smaller college in Pennsylvania. And my son, we just put in a small college, and it made a huge difference because some kids, like my daughter went to the University of Pittsburgh, she was fine. It didn't matter if there was 50,000 kids there, she was good. My son, that was gonna be a struggle for him. So we put him in a small college and it made a huge difference. And I think your son did the same thing. I mean, in Virginia Tech, he was struggling. At the smaller college, he did great.
He graduated with honors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the ways to reduce some of the stresses is to make sure you put your kid in the college that makes the most sense for the kid. My daughter was like, oh, I want to go to this really prestigious school. Like, no, it's not the right place for you. My son, the same thing. Your son, the same thing. It's like sometimes what they want isn't what's best for them, and it will stress them out. And if you put them in the right situation, it'll work better.
No, my son, I think he picked Virginia Tech because it's prestigious, but also had a really good football team. Like, that's not the reason you choose a college.
Oh, here's what I found. Like both of my kids, when I took them on their college tours, the person who had the most influence of whether they went there or not was the guide. Like they had a student that would take them around on the tour. And if they liked the tour guide, then that was the school they kept on the list. If they didn't like the tour guide, Payne College should pay attention because the tour guide is a big decision-making process, right?
Well, Payne is very small college, very private college, religious college. The professors can take time out, more time out with the student than they would be if they went to a larger population. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely. One of the other lectures you had talked about was stress in the workplace. Like right now, we're seeing all these changes because people are going from working in the office to working at home. You know, they have kids, there's all these other stresses that are coming on. What advice can you give people that are workers with this change? Because one of the things that we're seeing, like our friends who did this, they're working in the government and they had picked to be working from home. And now with Mr. Trump in the presidency, he said, oh no, you can't work from home anymore. So now you gotta come in the office. So they're dealing with this crazy amount of stress, right?
Well, the commutes are really stressing them out.
So his office moved.
During the pandemic, his office shut down locally, or more locally, and moved to another state. So now his commute's gonna be 5 hours.
So what should I tell that guy?
Well, you don't want to tell him to change jobs. What you have to do is tell him, look at the perks and the benefits of working versus the negativities. Our provost, she lives in Charlotte, South Carolina, and she commutes between Charlotte, South Carolina to Augusta. It takes her 2.5 to 3 hours every day to drive. She drives.
She gets to make that decision that she's willing to say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna make this decision to drive the 2.5 hours. I'm gonna guess, and this is the beauty of our technology, one of the stress reducers is that we can do things by Zoom and you can do things remotely. So it turns out people have been telecommuting since like the 1980s when we had a gas crisis, and people started then. But now what's going on is the technology is so much better that it actually is much, much easier to do that. And it turns out it's way more productive. So there's actually a 15 to 20% increase in productivity when people telecommute because they don't have to waste time driving. And like if it's 2 o'clock and you have to go pick up your kid, if you're at work, you just leave and don't come back. But if you work from home, you go pick up your kid, you come back, and you finish up whatever you were doing. So you're actually increasing your productivity and you're decreasing the stress. And one of the things that like we just drove back from down your way, we went through Savannah and Myrtle Beach and Hilton Head. And when we came back up, we ended up in traffic around Washington, DC. There's a beltway. It took us an extra hour to get home. And we could feel ourselves going like this. And it's like what I realized when I was going to medical school in college, I was commuting to Washington, D.C. It was so part of the background that you didn't even realize how constricted you were because it was just what you did. But when you don't have to do it and you come back and do it, you're like, whoa, wow, that was like, ugh, right? And so when you're trying to do that every day, and that's just to get started to get there, yikes, that's kind of stressful.
That's every day. So what I'm saying is this. He has to look at the positives. Is it worth traveling that distance? Or should I find another position closer? I might be making less money, but if I make more money, that's even better.
My eldest son, he lives in Baltimore, but works in Washington, D.C. And he takes the train, which eases his commute, but still there's that time that he has to spend on the train. And he's taken up listening to books on tape. It gives him something pleasurable to do while he's in the train.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, right? So he's taking that commuting time that would normally be like stressing out and you're freaking out because there's traffic and you're this and that, and he's made it into something that's actually productive. But he told us that he's read 50 books in 1 year.
Yeah.
Or he listened to 50 books in 1 year.
Listened to 50 books in 1 year.
It's actually a really good suggestion. Like, here you are wasting your time in this little, metal vehicle or in your train, and here's something you can stimulate your brain. You can learn something. You can get something out of it. He's in a book club too, so that he then...
Which I might footnote, he was never a reader growing up.
Yeah.
Never. Getting him to read for school was like pulling teeth. So now he's doing it for pleasure, which is amazing to me.
That's a really good thing. Yeah, this is good. I like this episode. Yeah, I'm learning something from this episode. This is good. But I want to thank you, Dr. Mahone, for being here with us today. And I hope that you guys learned something from this. Again, our goal here is to help you get in your happy place and stay there. Get rid of some of those stresses that are keeping you from that happy place. Get rid of those obstacles and stay in the happy place. If you want more information, you can get my book called Highway to Your Happy Place, A Roadmap to Less Stress, or my other book called Mindset Matters. If you need more information than that, you can get on the website. It's more current information, thelessstressdoc.com. If you need more personal information, come to my email. It's lessstressdoc@gmail.com. And I want to thank you for tuning in today. And we're going to be back next time with a new guest. My wife, Terry, thanks for being here.
You're so welcome. Nice to be here.
Dr. Mahone, thank you. And we'll see you next time.
You can get Coping with Stress, Building Leadership, One Man's Journey. You can get the book from Amazon. My website, spelling, Dr. D-O-C-T-O-R, Mahone, MAHONE.com. That's my website. Thank you so much.